Shalom, call halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahashai, Bahasham, Rakaha, Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors to the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the tabernacle of David, the 144,000, 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, who are to be the judges here on earth, the new heaven here on earth when it comes down. Okay, that's scriptural. That will rule over all the other nations and enforce the laws of heaven on earth as it is in heaven. When that is applied, when the Lord's Prayer is applied on earth, is when the tabernacle of David is ruling over all nation countries, all of mankind, under the authority of who the world fraudulently and falsely called JC. Right, and to the rest of the scattered elect, the scattered Israelites that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations, they have the appearance of the heathen nations. All right, so it's not a black thing as the false narrative that Esau and certain Israelites themselves tried to push. And to the rest of the Akwath that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone in Chicago, coming at you another brutal lesson in truth. All right, and before I go any further, I'm going to read Disclaimer Act. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Okay, I particularly discussed it with this channel and people like it that do this sort of thing, because these are basically what I call paid opposition. They know they can't stop the truth. So what Esau does is he gets people on the payroll to distort the message. And this nation, this group right here, they don't push the Northern Kingdom. They push the black only narrative, which is false. All right, so that's Esau's way of trying to get in there and create and keep division. All right, because the Northern Kingdom, being the so-called Latinos and Hispanics of the Americas, that is the Northern Kingdom of the nation of Israel collectively. You know, there are many tares among them. Same way there's many tares among so-called black people. All right, and the Israelites got scattered. So that being the problem with channels and people like this, they try to push a false narrative. A black only thing, all right? And that's impossible to be when the Israelites, the Bible tells you over and over again that the people got scattered to all nations. You know, to give you a biblical example, a scripture, before we go any further, is what I want to do. This is a 27-minute video, so I don't want to miss any of it. What I plan to do, Lord's will, is I'm going to go through this video about 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at a time, and then apply scriptures and correction to things that are wrong, and enlighten where it needs to, where edification needs to be enlightened. All right. But to give a scriptural example of what I said, all right, the nation of Moab are the Chinese today. And here's what Isaiah 16:4 says, what the Bible says, all right? And it reads, let my outcasts dwell with thee, O Moab. So the outcast scattered Israelites, many of them dwell with the Moabites, all right? Be thou a covert to them from the face of the spoiler. The spoiler is Edomite. So the Lord said, he literally hid these so-called, or what people would call Negroes today, these Israelites, among the Moabites, which is a different race of people, okay? And hid them from the Edomites, because the Edomites were trying to do what? Exterminate Judah. And that would refer to Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, you know, the southern kingdom, okay? It says, for the extortioner is at an end, the spoiler is ceaseth, and the oppressor are consumed out of the land. So now the Lord is about to return, and he plans to gather up is scattered from among the heathen that look like the heathen. It's really not rocket science. It's so simple. So the Israelites were scattered among all nations, among all people. All right. That does not take away the fact that, yes, they all had a Negro type appearance in the beginning before they got scattered. That's true. But they're not, but all of them are not going to still look that way today. All right. So without any further ado, let's jump into this video and let the edification begin.
So he got rid of all the DEI for LGBTQ and people of the color and race and blacks and Hispanic. He got rid of all that DEI and he just replaced it with a new DEI called Jewish people, called Jewish people, called Jewish people. Trump betraying MAGA and becoming Israel first instead of America first. U.S. is going to link $1.9 billion in state disaster funds to Israel boycott stance. So if a state doesn't want to buy stuff from Israel and they do a boycott of Israel products because they're committing a genocide, Donald Trump's federal government is going to deny you disaster funds.
So what that proves is that Amalek is first. All right, the Israelis, the Jewish people today, primarily those that are not converts, all right, the ones that go back to Kagan Bulin, to Ukraine, Kiev area when they first converted a second time to Judaism, all right, they're mainly of the stock of Amalek. All right, and it says that when he looked on Amalek, he took his parable. This is Numbers 24 and 20. And when he looked on and when he looked on Amalek, he took up a parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, all right, but its latter end shall be that he perish forever. So the Amalekites would be the premier nation among even their own people, among all the people, but even among the other Edomites, the other white people. And now the other white people have to cater to Amalek. That's scriptural. It's written that that would happen. Amalek didn't really share the wealth. He separated himself from the rest of his so-called white brethren and put himself above them. And Edomites here in America are pissed off and tired of it because they can clearly see it now. Though the Hebrew Israelites, have been telling you this live on the internet since 2007. And the apostles and elders were telling you decades before that. All right. They've been almost 2 decades on the internet now telling you these things.
U.S. states and cities that boycott Israel companies will be denied federal aid for natural disaster preparedness, the Trump administration has announced, tying routine federal funding to its political stance.
Is there any states that are currently threatening to do that at all, by the way?
I think there is. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, the FEMA, stated in grant notices posted on Friday that states must follow its terms and conditions. This is the most... So now Israel is like a DEI hire for the Trump administration.
Who do you think benefits the most from DEI programs? Time's up. Black people? No. White women. Overwhelmingly. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. And I'm not going to get into that now because that's a whole other discussion. But I will say that one of the reasons is that 50 years of affirmative action got a lot of women into the workplace where they were in a position to take advantage of a new push to say, hey, we need to look for qualified people.
Which backfired tremendously and put Edomite families in a position of the systems that they set up to destroy black families by placing so-called black families. By when they brought this sort of welfare aid assistance that was given only if the man was removed from the house, which incentivized women to have more children, to not stay with their husbands, and to have children with different men because of the benefits. Title 4D child support, that corrupted system itself, which is completely unconstitutional and against the law of the land. Actually, it's a foreign treaty. And it's illegal to put an American citizen under a foreign treaty, yet they do it. All right. So, people complaining about Trump, violating the constitutions. These presidents have been allowing the Constitution to be violated for multiple decades now. All right. And that's just one example, one truth, you know. So when you say that, you got to provide receipts. I just gave you a big one of the biggest ones, actually. And in that action, they allowed women to surpass men, just like the scripture says, and it helped contribute to the destructions of the family, which is now also happening to white families. Now you got white women that got baby daddies now, and multiple baby daddies. And even worse with white women, they're not only having it with their own men, but they're having it. A lot of the white women who get pregnant today are actually having children with men of color, mainly so-called black men. And I would say probably a close second or just as much with Hispanic men. All right. But you'll see them they're having babies with Elam, even Moab. Okay. There's a lot of white women that have, babies with, so-called Chinese, Japanese, and men from that part of Asia. But this is Jeremiah 31:22. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? The Lord hath created a new thing in the earth where a woman shall compass a man. So, and that's what has happened. And I just watched a video of women complaining about how they left their husband because they actually were the breadwinner or making more money, and now they just been miserable, jumping from man to man, getting used and never finding, and they just wish they had to stay with their husbands or stay with, So it backfired. Just like the whole DEI thing backfired because it actually has harmed the very people who were in their racism and hate voted for Trump because they thought that this would hurt people of color, mainly blacks, so-called blacks, when it actually hurt white people the most. So, that's what's going on with them. Tricks are for kids, MF.
Already in the workplace because of affirmative action. That was one of the reasons. But be that as it may. All right. So who's the second biggest beneficiary of DEI programs? Time's up. Black people?
You would think so. I mean, most people in America apparently think so.
Yeah, most people think so. No. The second biggest beneficiary of DEI programs is white men.
That's why I think this United story.
So they really F themselves, and that's because of their own hatred.
In the DEI story hits so hard because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off, and I feel better now.
You want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't
have done that before. That's not who I am. That's not
right. You wouldn't have done that before, and it is a thought crime, and that's the hatred that has been pushed, and hate and their own hatred has also helped completely destroy them, and is destroying their society. Right. This is Ezekiel 35:5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity and the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So that hatred is going to come back on them, and it's going to actually come back on them in blood. But their systems are failing first before the bloodshed starts. So this is the beginning of the end of Jacob's trouble, and Jacob's trouble is the end of Esau's as well. This is the destruction of the 2/3 and the end of Esau Edom's kingdom. It's all wrapped up in one biblical package. You can't have one without the other.
Not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so.
Saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring, and what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could.
So this man has become the president who blurts out pseudoscience and lies more than any I've ever seen. Real talk, right? They love to categorize, and which brings to mind the scripture, and place categories to make excuses for their own failures and for the failing system. They need someone and something to blame it on, and not ever. It can't be our fault. It can't be our bad decision making, or it's the diversity hires and all this other stuff.
Yeah, Ben, we have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else.
White men, of course, are not a uniform group, as much as we think so.
Yeah, no kidding. But this is Revelation 12:10. It says, "And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come the salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Hamashiach. For the accuser of our brethren, which accused them before our power day and night." All right. Okay. Because so he's about to cast them down. Okay. The Lord is about to cast them down. And one of the things that's happened is they're being revealed. Their hatred. This is punishment for their hatred and what they've done. And the kingdom is being ushered in. And the men of the Lord, we are the heralds. We're heralding in. All right. And now they're going to come against us the same way that Claudius came against the Israelites who were aggressively street teaching because a great awakening was happening then in Greece and Rome, where the Israelites were scattered. They were waking up to the fact that they were the people of the Lord and were separating and aggressively street teaching. And Claudius needed them to remain Greeks and Romans and remain good little, ninjas, for lack of a better word. Stop waking up to the fact that you were kings and shit. We don't need that. We the new kings, right? And that was a problem, the awakening, just like it's a problem now. And DEI is one of those systems that was set up to help to try and stifle this Israelite awakening. But what it did was it harmed white people, Edomites, just as much, if not more, than it did the Israelites, who are actually literally used to struggling and being on the bottom. Part of our curse. We've been in that condition since we've been in Babylon. Esau is not handling this well. They're crashing out.
They are vets. They are disabled. They are LGBTQ, whatever. They are poor. And in all of those categories of diverse talent benefit from DEI programs, and they're all majority white.
Right.
So of course white people are going to benefit more from DEI programs. And they're also going to be hurt the most by taking them away.
Yeah, so Trump really hurt his own
and
people.
In all of those categories of diverse talent benefit from DEI programs, and they're all majority white.
Okay, so this is
How about you?
You have to say it twice. This is Mark 3:23, and it reads, "And he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand," that race. All right. "And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end." So this is literally informing you that the race of people, all right, that are ruling over the earth, this is a future prophecy, would begin to be one against one another. And that's happening literally right before our eyes. Okay.
Are you a white Jew?
So we could elaborate on this debate. I'm going to try to stay sort of in the pocket here, one thing at a time. But am I white passing? Absolutely. How we're going to define
you say you're white passing.
So white passing, what that literally means is that somebody who's not white at all, they're white passing. That term, that means that they're a person of color. Their father is a person of color, and their mother was a so-called white person, and they happen to look like their mother. Right, because biblically, your identity is whatever your father is, that's what you are. Hands down, no argument. You got nothing to say. That's what it is. That's what the Bible tells you. That's what history is. It has always been that way until this place was erected, until the Renaissance and the rule of the so-called white man, especially during the time of slavery. So in his cruelty and his wickedness, he enslaved millions of his own children because they were raping women of color, Israelite women, and other people around the world by the millions, and created all these tear babies. So they're Edomite tares, just the way the Israelites are scattered abroad and around the nations, Edomites too. And there's a lot of brown skinned, colored, even black looking Edomites all over the fucking place. All right. Hold on. Let me close the shade. The sun is trying to peek through the clouds a little bit. Getting a glare on the screen. All right. And they sprayed like crazy yesterday. And I did a video short speaking about it and all the weird pressure and headaches and shit that people get when they do that is starting already. And the rain, I guess it's just from the residue. So when the rain comes, which is clearly going to come, because now that they sprayed like that, a completely clear skies are all cloudy now. It's going to bring that poison down on us, but that's another video for another time. But let us continue. Let me actually go to here.
Well, joining us for our weekly segment, Bottom Line, is Allgemeiner CEO David Efune. So, David, let's jump right in. Genetically speaking, are Jews white?
Now, watch what he does. Instead of answering the question, he's going to do what they always do. They're programmed to do this and go and start talking about the cost. Okay? The Holocaust. Okay? I want to say it correctly, the Holocaust. They want to talk about that instead of answering the question. And by the way, the Holocaust doesn't fit anything in the Bible. It does not fit the curses in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. That whole incident was a horrible incident, but that was Edomite on Edomite violence. All right? That's all that was.
Well, Natasha, it's important to understand, firstly, the intense sensitivity that this question has for the Jewish community.
So, wow.
And actually, it's coming up at a personally very relevant time for me.
So I guess that's why it's illegal to take a DNA test if you're in the land of Israel, because it's going to reveal that they are no different from the other Edomites that are dwelling in the part of Asia that they call Eurasia or Europe. All right.
Today is the anniversary of the passing of my great-grandfather, David Weinstock.
Fuck did his passing of his grandfather have anything to do with the question? It was all he had to do was just answer the question.
Who was arrested by the Nazis in Vienna in September 1939, and he was taken to the anthropological department at the Vienna Museum of Natural History, and he was subjected to, together with 440 other Jews, to degrading tests and measurements because he was considered by the Nazis to be of an inferior race. So it really is the height of irony and insult that when Jews express concern about anti-Semitism being ignored and a blindness to anti-Semitism, they're then lumped into the white category.
And in all of those categories of diverse talent benefit from DEI programs, and they're all majority white.
I want to get Dr. Meyer's opinion on this.
So let's read Genesis 36. I'm going to read verses 1 through 5 first. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Adah, daughters of Elon, Hittite, Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite, Bathsheba, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth, and Adar bare Eliphaz, and Eliphaz and Bathsheba bare Ruel. All right, and you gotta pay attention to Eliphaz for later. And Ahabimah bare Jeush and Jalam and Korah, and the sons of Esau, which were born unto him in the land of Canaan. So he wouldn't marry these dark Hamite women, but his children still came out pale. They still came out red. That paleness, what you call white today. Even though he married these Hamite women and a daughter of Ishmael, who was also very dark. Dark like the man on the screen right now. They all were back then. Okay? Jumping down to verse 8. Thus Esau dwelt in Mount Seir, Petra. We've done 1,000 videos. I got receipts in my phone right now of the relics from Petra. You would think that you were in ancient Greece, right? Just look just like Alexander and the rest of the Edomite people. Okay? But it says, thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom, and these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir, their first mountain home. Not the Caucasus Mountains. They were forced in the Caucasus Mountain. They were chased there, forced up there after the fall of Rome, when people that looked like the man on the screen took over Rome and basically ruled Britain and all of Europe during the Dark Ages, and all the way up until the end of the medieval times, when Esau Edom began to get dominion again, going into the Renaissance. That's why it's called the Renaissance, the rebirth of of the Edomite. So they lie when they show you all them period pieces of the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages of white people ruling in the Vikings. You were not the Vikings. You were not the Scots. You were not the Irish. You are the people who live in those places now. All right. Read Ben Franklin's letter from 1751 and go straight to paragraph 24 to when he gives you the breakdown of the people of Sweden, Italy, Spain, and all of them, that they were swarthy people, like the man on the screen is swarthy, okay, in complexion, okay. And let's jump down to verse 12, right straight to it. And Timah was a concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek, which were the sons of Adah and Esau's wife. So Amalek became the chief of the nations today, of the rest of the Edomites. And he's being very unfair and unrighteous to his own people. Left them, basically tried to hog the blessing of Edom to himself and leave them out. And he gave them one gift. He gave them the benefit of this false pseudos identity called whiteness. And now that's played out. It's not working anymore.
Classifying it as white Jew, because we know there's black Jews, how does that make you feel? How does that initially hit you when I say, if I said black and white Jewish relations?
I guess that's mostly what I deal with is in my courses is those interactions. I think, again, in America, most Jews are Ashkenazic Jews who are white. Sometimes part of the problem between the two communities is that some people will take advantage of that, will use their whiteness as a way of promoting themselves, as a way of integrating themselves into whatever community they want to be in by removing themselves and denigrating themselves from some other community. Right. I find that problematic.
He find it problematic, and he just let you know the Ashkenazi Jews, there is no scientific difference. They are white, and they're not even from Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz, that's just a name that they took on because they lived in a land where Ashkenaz dwelt, all right? Same as Americans lived, they took on the name of America, and that's not a nationality, okay? Because everybody here came from somewhere else, including the people who were here first. They all came from Asia for the most part. The Middle East, is in Asia. Russia is in Asia. Europe is in Asia. Okay. But they use pseudoscience to try to duck and dodge the nationality. All right, and came up with this false one called whiteness, and that so the Edomites became white people. This is 1 Timothy 6:20. And it reads, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings of oppositions of science falsely so called. So Timothy warned us that in the latter days, they would try to use fraudulent science and vain babblings and false science, pseudoscience, to try to get around historical biblical facts and truth. And they rule with, and they place science above proof, above artifacts, and they're not using real science, because science literally means to know. All right, anything that's a guess and a hypothesis and all that, no. If it's not 100%, if you can't make 1 + 1 = 2, and somehow you making it equal 3 or 1.5, that's a pseudoscience. That's a false science, and this is literally how they do things to try to get around things. All right. And speaking on Amalek and Esau, you know, and this whole J-ish thing, speaking on the J-ish people, that's a term that came about during the rule of the Hasmonean dynasty of John Hyrcanus, the grandsons of I'm not the grandson, but the great nephew and the grandson. I think he was Simon was his father, so he would be the great nephew of Judas Maccabees and the grandson of Simon Maccabees. Okay, and the history, and matter of fact, you can see that in the New Dictionary Bible. They have a really good. I have a receipt here. I should have put that Bible up on the screen, but it's the New Dictionary Bible, 2nd edition. I believe it was from 1992 or something like that. You can look it up. It's the New Bible Dictionary, 2nd edition. I'm going to show you some images from it. I took screenshots, so I wouldn't have to pick up the book and hold the book all the time. But I know I have them. Just bear with me for a second. And here we go. It's right around here. Come on now. Oh, speaking of which, wow. Speaking of that, the Khazarian symbols, all right, that whole area for the second form of you know, when the Edomites converted to Judaism again during the 7th century, the 6th century. All right, you see the Ukrainians today still use the Edomite symbol today. These symbols are all over Ukrainian Village in Chicago on cars, you know, and that's a very racist. And then it shows you their connection to the Aryan race, showing you that they're the same. They're not a different race of people. And it's showing you the Caucasus Mountains. You see that's what's behind it. When their first home is Mount Seir, that set of mountains, but it's the same ancient symbol. But here we go. This is on page, well, I can't see the page number, but this is when you go to the definition of the Maccabees, okay? Let's see if we can put that in the screen. It gives you the family lineage all the way down to where the Maccabees stopped, and then it show you Herod and his daughters, okay? And all of a sudden, these Herodians, okay, who were Edomites, after the conversion to Judaism, the Romans put them over the Israelites. You see? So, because once again, when you look at this family tree, this is from man to man on the rule of the Hasmonean dynasty all the way up until there were no more men born. And one of the Hasmonean daughters married the son, Antipater, the son of Herod the Great. Okay? And now you had J-ish people standing in the stead of the real Israelites and wearing hats on their head, covering up their crowns. All right, when the Israelites didn't do that, that wasn't their custom. And so the people today resurrected that customs of and started, and that's what Judaism is today. All right, and matter of fact, we just click over to the next image on page 631 in the same Bible. You know, it tells you quite clearly that, you know, Judaism is a religion of the Jews in contrast to that of the Old Testament. Okay. And at the bottom, it tells you that those elements, which either are modifications or extensions of the Old Testament concepts. So they use the Bible, but it's a whole different religion. And Isaiah 34:16 tells you that there's no book to mate with the Bible. So these people are frauds and they're busted and they're no different from the other Edomites. And that's where we are. And he told you.
Jewishness is categorized as whiteness.
That's all. So right here it will be Lord's will. This will be part 2 starts. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rikah HaKodash, Kwam Yasharala Abab Abal. See you in the next lesson.